You just watched it right there. The train of thought just left the building. Everything is coming up Millhouse. Here you are, and Bob's your uncle. That's not what I said, but it's like, here's what you said. If you calm the body, the mind will follow. You're not paying attention. There's discount airlines, and you're taking your life in your own hands. But we've been saying that, for years around here. No, that's literally not what happened at all. The Supreme Court, who I consider to be, at this point, the most corrupt, can't even remember how I started getting off on that tangent. He would probably throw mine out and bring his own. We're not the cult, and I'm not looking to do that anyway. I just can't Cookie Monster my way through. Anybody else having pollen issues right now? So valuable, in fact, that I didn't even know I needed that.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Hard Rock Lunchbox. And, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, it is the top 20. It is a simply wonderful day. It is May 30th, 2024. I am roughly 2 minutes late. Everything is coming up Millhouse. I was late because I was in a meeting. I was in a meeting that I knew was going to run, right to the end. And then I got asked the question, right at the end. I was like, okay. So I answered it, and it took me a long time to get from right over there to right over here. Mainly because I'm so absent-minded lately, I was just worried that I was going to start forgetting stuff to do. I mean, fortunately, I have a checklist, so I followed that. Seems okay. I did prep for the meeting. I did half of the stuff before the meeting, which was probably actually worse because then I just didn't remember that I did that half of the stuff before the meeting, and then here you are, and Bob's your uncle. So that's where that is. A lot of stuff going on in the world currently, or at least in my world. Just trying to make my way through. It is not the easiest. It is not the easiest thing to do to be me. I make fun of situations and people that just have a lot of trouble getting out of their own way. And the reason I do that is because I am one of those people myself. By the way, I look absolutely awful. I did not sleep very well again, and I got bags under my eyes, man. I don't know where you guys stand on this issue, but I am not a huge fan of getting older. It is just really starting to kick my ass, and I am having all kinds of trouble dealing with it. Lately I've been so distracted that it's very hard for me to maintain focus, which is why it takes me a few minutes to kind of get my ideas together. It was funny. This was years ago, actually. I was noticing how former President Barack Obama, in his first term, was not exactly very quick to speak, but he was a very good orator. So he would talk, and he would talk intelligently, and you hear him. He sounded like somebody that could just speak and do an idea, very stream of consciousness, be comfortable with it. And then by the end of his second term, I noticed that his speech patterns were so much slower, and you could watch him actually think about what he was going to say next. And I thought at the time that it was because the situation that was being set up, basically in the world, in the country and in government, was that people were, we were in the age of the soundbite, right? So if you said the wrong thing, it just went viral. Now we in 2024 live with that every day. You could just say anything, chop it up out of context, and I'm not even talking about deep fake stuff. I'm talking about actual stuff that you say, slip of the tongue, mistakes, that kind of stuff. People do it all the time, and it's usually not a big deal because you just say, it's not what I meant. But now these days, it's that's not what I said, but it's here's what you said. So, I understand why people are a little bit more metered these days. But I used to think that that's what it was, and now I think it is because he seriously was just managing, the United States of America, which is a big deal. And I do not do that. I manage very few things, but when I'm managing all of them, my brain is necessarily elsewhere, and it's really unnerving, and I don't like it. And I'm trying to kind of form a measure to get some more metered peace. so that I can be a little bit calmer in here. And I know like everyone's like, well, just, once you meditate. And it's like, well, one of the reasons I don't meditate so well is because I cannot seem to force that down. Now, when I was going to meditation classes and sessions, not really classes, when I was part of a meditation group, I really liked it a lot better because the energy of the room kind of forced you down. Because the saying goes, in meditation, if you calm the body, the mind will follow. And that's supposed to be true because they're, completely linked, your mind and body. I don't know if you knew that. The mind and the body are completely linked. So if you calm the mind, you will also calm the body. That's how you reduce stress. But in order to force that, you need to force the body to calm, and then the brain will follow. And that's one of the harder things that I've had to deal with, and I've not been super successful on my own. I'm way better in a group, to the point where I had actually considered at one point a few years ago just sort of forming a donation-only meditation group once a week. I thought that a lot of people in our little sandbox could really use it, especially a lot of the musicians that I know, and band members, because it really is an important thing, and I'd really considered just doing it and just trying to find a place, and if we could get enough people, I could just rent the place, like a $10 donation for an hour or whatever. But it never came to fruition because I don't have the time, I don't have the place, I don't have the resources to do that kind of stuff. It's just, I was talking to Joey Nunn from Neon Skyline a lot at the show on Saturday, but I was talking to him just by message yesterday, and he was commenting about how there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of stuff going on in the air, and I was saying that's to be expected based on the world we're living in and the people in that world and all that other stuff. But he was saying, you just watched it right there. The train of thought just left the building. And I don't remember why I was trying to say that, but it was something about, I was talking about meditation. I was money and resources. He was saying, I was saying it's very difficult, it's very stressful when people, don't have enough money to really kind of exist in the place that they're at. And he was saying money can't buy happiness. And I told him, I was I really don't have a whole lot in the problem category that money can fix. In fact, most of my day-to-day problems are really financially based because things are just getting so much harder. I mean, the fact that I used to and still do actually make a really good living and struggle is just bananas. It really is bananas. And I can just cite an example from my own personal existence. I don't know who else has kind of dealt with this recently, but in the past calendar year, New York State-based insurance companies have just raised their rates 10 to 25%. They just raised their rates. And honestly, there's nothing you can really do about it other than just sort of shop around. But when you have this sort of, everybody's, they're all working together, and it's supposed to be what keeps the free market, that these companies don't work together. But if you honestly think that that's what that is, or that's what's going on, you're not paying attention. The only places that you still find that kind of stuff are really, really bitter rivalries, maybe even McDonald's and Burger King. But honestly, I don't even know how much they're doing that. So, but you have it's I don't want to say price fixing because that sounds more like something the mafia would do, but airlines do that. Airlines work together to kind of create these prices that they've agreed that they will all kind of do roughly the same price. That's why you don't have a $500 flight to Charlotte and then a $100 flight to Charlotte, unless it's a flight that nobody wants, at 6 a.m. and stuff like that kind of thing. So but you can't get a decent hour flight for a really ridiculous price because they don't have those things. The only ones that do that are those discount airlines, and they, you're taking your life in your own hands at that point. What is interesting is starting to see the way that inflation is starting to turn that tide a little bit, because you are starting to see where competitors are going to be competing for your dollar, right? Burger King and McDonald's just had a big blowout because McDonald's was about to roll out its $5 menu, and Burger King was like, want to hear something funny? we're going to roll it out before you, and they did. And that's a really big kind of like undercut and FU to the competition. So I'm a big fan. Like, I don't eat there, or I rarely eat there, so it doesn't really affect me all that much. But it is nice to see now competition coming in. Target's about to do that. They announced that they're going to slash costs on thousands of items because they're going to take a swipe at Walmart, and everybody's trying to take a swipe at Amazon. Amazon's also in trouble for some predatory stuff that they're doing, and also for possible monopolistic practices, but we've been saying that, for years around here. So that's nothing new, but the point of it was, finances up here in the Northeast are really, really tough. They're tough all around. Unless you're like some sort of trust fund baby or like hedge fund or just have no expenses, then finances are really ridiculous. But honestly, even if you have finances, the amount that life costs up here really should be offensive to the senses, and it is. And that's causing a lot of people, certainly in my, sandbox and local group, to consider like whether or not it's time to leave New York or not. And, I am definitely one of those people that are, how much longer can we actually pull this off? When I mean we like me, I mean like we like all of us. Because I don't know any super rich people. Like, I know people that have good jobs. I know people that have embarrassingly well-paying jobs that, honestly still struggle to make ends meet. And that's messed up. Like, you really shouldn't, like, that's what this whole thing was supposed to be about. But now with this jump in inflation, and now, of course, all the price gouging and the money grabbing and all that other stuff, you get all that, you get all those problems, because now you have, the minimum wage has gone up, and then everybody just started raising rates well beyond that minimum wage because they're all percent based. And like, I know people in the internet are just going to argue with me, and that's fine. I mean, you're entitled to your own opinion. Of course, you're just not entitled to your own facts. So you can do your own research and find this out, or you can just watch Fox News or OAN and just think something completely false. It doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't affect my day at all. I will say that I do still have this urge to correct stuff when I see it being misrepresented or being just stated wrong. I had a conversation just this morning about we were talking about Citizens United, and the person I was speaking with actually said, he's like, yeah, wasn't that an Obama thing? Because once, Obama signed that into law, and I had to be like, no, that's literally not what happened at all. In fact, the Obama administration tried to regulate all this campaign finance reform, because all these massive companies were like bundling money together and were like, just shelling thousands and millions of dollars to candidates. And the reason the Obama administration tried to get rid of that was because if you have a company like Citibank putting together like $1 million in donations on behalf of their, whatever, because they're a company or whatever, like, how much does that really look at like your ability to influence your politicians, right? Like, if you think about it, if we all were capped at like $2,000, which I think is the personal cap, right? If we were all capped at $2,000, well, my influence would be just as much as whoever is running JP Morgan right now, right? That if you can't buy a politician if you can't give them extra money, right? People always complaining about corruption and buying politicians. Well, if you stem that, then you can't influence that person, that congressman, congresswoman, senator, or whatever, right? That was the whole thing with campaign finance reform. Well, Citizens United was a class action suit against that law. It was done by wealthy right-wing supporters that wanted to actually be able to spend and give way more money to their politicians so those politicians would do what they wanted. And the Supreme Court said that was fine. So the Supreme Court, who I consider to be, at this point, the most corrupt part of the U.S. federal system, they're the ones that are responsible for it. And this was years ago. And still I had to explain that, like, that wasn't something Obama did. Like, Obama administration did enough stuff that I thought was not good. But what they definitely didn't do was side with big business in terms of campaign finance reform. So it is important. I still think it is important to correct people when they're wrong, especially about certain very knowable facts and stuff like that. So that was kind of problematic, and I just can't even remember how I started getting off on that tangent. It's probably not super important anyway. But I was talking about how like I didn't have the resources to put together some sort of meditation thing, and that's sort of too bad. Before I run out of time, which will be soon, we might as well get to some light housekeeping here. Everything at the top 20 is all messed up this week except for the top 20 video itself. That should be out. I didn't even get a chance to check. The episode, Why Not? This week, DJ explains the importance of playing new material in front of your core fans. I'll talk about that in just 1 second. We talked about battling IT systems, many expectations, guitar bad habits, and all that other stuff. And of course, show notes. It is still May, but on June 14th, we'll release our last single out of the last batch. The song is called Inside. It is slightly more industrial, slightly harder than the other 3 songs, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see what people think of that. We also did not play it a lot live, so a lot of people may not even know it at all, which makes me very giddy because I love throwing new material at people like that. So that's the 14th. There is a Hard Rock Lunchbox on the 13th. I'm not saying that I'm going to play it early, but I think if that was probably a pretty good bet, I would put money down on that. Also, the reason we're putting that show out is because on the 21st, we're going to return to the Village Pub. We're going to be there with Off the Turnpike, Craving Strange, and Something Heavy. It is going to be, as far as I can tell, the first real Sandbox show of the year. It is also shaping up to look like it might be the only Sandbox show of the year, given the way everybody's going in their different directions this year for scheduling. I don't think there's anything malicious going on. It's just a trend that I'm starting to notice. So we'll just sort of see. So yeah, that's it for housekeeping. In terms of the show on Saturday night, I was pleasantly surprised. I had never been to Shakers, and I had a much different impression of what it was, and I don't know why that is. I'm starting to think that maybe I was conflating it with another venue, but I don't think so because I don't know what else was over there. But I was very pleasantly surprised by the venue, the setup, the way it was working out. Now, I did talk to Kyler from the Muckrakers, and they were supplying their own sound, and they were supplying their own, door. So I feel like it's one of those places where you go in and you just have to take everything over, which is incredibly unattractive to me on almost every level, because I hate doing that. I've done it so many times that I just don't want to do it anymore. But I think that might be a good venue for me to pull off maybe another sort of new to you sort of situation, because I would have full control over it. The problem is I would have to bring a PA, which is not the worst thing. I'm pretty sure if I asked Tony to run the PA, he would love it. Honestly, I think if I asked Tony to run the PA, he would probably throw mine out and bring his own and just do it that way, because Tony, for all the things that Tony is, he really does love doing like audio work and stuff like that. So I don't think that would necessarily be a problem. Also, I can run a PA. I know when things are too loud and too soft and all that other stuff. And I do have all the gear because G. Davey used to go out to all these places all the time, and I had to bring our PA because we were the ones responsible for it. So I think if I just put it aside and like am able to like sort of pay out of the pot for, sort of sound and for somebody to sit at the door and just collect stuff, I think, collect money. I think that might be something worth considering, because the setup of the place is pretty good. I wish it wasn't so far away, because that does a lot of not good for Revel 9 fans, especially the core that come with like Kaz and Nadal and Tony, because it is a hike for them. I mean, it's 30 minutes for me, maybe 27 minutes for me, but I do have to go all the way south, no phrasing, to get there. And they're just more of a straight shot. But it was far, but I could see setting something up there. So I might talk to, I don't know who handles the booking there, but I might talk to Kyler about it and just maybe reach out to some of the other bands and maybe just set something up in September, just so we have it, or October or whatever. We'll just kind of figure it out. I know that we were considering just doing some road stuff in October, but the inside of me is thinking, like, I just don't want to do that work right now because it just never seems worth the squeeze. But, like, we'll see. If we're around in October and November, I may just go ahead and give that a shot, because I thought it was pretty good. And also, I was very, very happy, very pleased, and probably a lot of people that are listening to me now or on the replay, I was very, very pleased about the response I got from our new material. And I'm not even talking about like whether it was good or whether it was not, but the fact that I said from the stage, like, how important it is to play songs for people, new songs, and get what they think, especially core Revel 9 fans, because they are the ones that listen to your material. They are the ones that are most likely to enjoy your material. Yeah, you can always do something new, and yes, you can always flip new fans, which I am always interested in doing that, but I'm never interested in flipping new fans at the risk of losing old ones. I don't see any reason to do that. I don't mind evolving, but I don't need to just, like, we don't want those fans anymore. Like, you've seen those bands that, like, we're not hardcore anymore, we're pop. I mean, it kind of went that way with, like, bands like The Cult, like, who were very, like, like, kind of glam band, and then they went rock, and then they released Sonic Temple, which is probably one of the greater rock records of all time. I feel like that's the exception more than the rule. Anyway, we're not The Cult, and I'm not looking to do that anyway. But I did really appreciate how many people actually stopped me after the set, outside or in the bar afterwards, and actually gave me their 2 to 5 cents on the song, because it will say, like, not only is it good for me knowing that these songs, like, I didn't get any negative complaints on either song. I didn't get any negative complaints on Tony Omaha or Nothing at All. Both were very favorable. Both seemed to be very pleasing to people, and they're very interested in us pursuing them, which is great. But some of the insights I also got, because I had said from the stage and previously that a song like Tony Omaha I thought was very pop punk. And a few people actually pointed out that it didn't sound pop punk at all. And even Joey was able to articulate, well, one of the reasons it doesn't sound pop punk is because your band isn't pop punk, and they don't have the same bounce and the same rhythm. So, like, where I'm hearing Nothing But Taking Back Sunday, roughly around, 2003, my drummer can't play that way. And even if he could, he wouldn't, so he's playing a very rock beat under my very pop song. So it's now not pop punk, it's becoming very much more like poppy or rock and stuff like that. So I'm still hearing the way I wrote it. I'm still hearing the way that I put the initial demo out. And they, meaning you, are hearing the way we're actually presenting it. And that is incredibly valuable, and so valuable, in fact, that I didn't even know I needed that when I was getting it. But that gives me so much more confidence to sort of write in those areas, because knowing that I can show up with, a Green Day or a Blink-182 song, Blink-182 is probably better. And not that I would, I'm just using that in the example. Blink-182 song, and then have it immediately drawn, or like a Mayday Parade would probably be a better example. Something like that, and have it immediately drawn to the left or right, or whatever style of music is on whatever spectrum, by my band, means that I can write out here, and just because they're them, it's going to bring it back here. I can write out here, and just because they're them, they're going to bring it like right back here. And that's not to say that Revel 9 is going to be this one-trick pony, because even as you pull from here to here, you don't get all the way. I used to say that about my vocals when I would try and emulate people like Pete Loeffler from Chevelle, or Corey Taylor from Slipknot, or even Chino from Deftones. When I try and emulate those guys, my voice is not good enough to be those things. They just aren't. It just isn't. But if I aim for it, if I'm here and I'm aiming here and I can get here, I get something new. I get something different. So to hear that that's going to work in kind of this songwriting, I don't know, adventure that I'm going on from time to time. Like, because what I can't do is I can't write the really heavy stuff, because I can't even approach screamo vocals. I just can't. I'm trying. I am getting more and more, aggressive and aggression and heat and fry out of my voice, but I just don't have it in me to be like, more than 5 seconds. So I just can't Cookie Monster my way through, and I just cannot do it. Also, my band doesn't ever seem to get quite that heavy, and that's surprising when I kind of found that out, because I turned to them and was like, hey, can you guys write something really sort of heavy? And heavy for them is going to be in more the Metallica, Godsmack, Megadeth sort of way, and I'm looking for like Wage War, which they can't write, and turns out I can't really write it either. So my ability to keep experimenting in these sort of adjacent genres and know that it's going to get pulled slightly towards the middle excuse me, where Revel 9 exists, then that's great, because that frees me up, and I don't ever have to worry again about bringing some song that may or may not fit Anybody else having pollen issues right now? Jeez. All right, I think I finally got that clear. What's his name? Just kidding. It's a bad joke. But the fact that I can do that without sort of worry that it's just going to spin out is great. Like, it makes my job so much easier. And I got to tell you, I could use a little bit easier. Like, really. I could really use my jobs to be a lot easier. A lot going on in PJ Incorporated. And I can't even get into all of it because it's time for some, like, our local music block. Because isn't that what we're all here for? I know it's what you're here for. And that's good. Based in Connecticut, Mile Marker Zero has been a long-standing local band of the show. They just released a brand new song. I have the radio edit for you right now. It's called Bizarre, and it's on the box.